Namaste, everybody. Haribo. Welcome back. Again, my obeisances to my spiritual masters, Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa and Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami. So we talked about karma last time. Now we're going to talk about reincarnation. And really, you can't separate the two. I mean, they're just basically connected in so many ways. So reincarnation is a reality. Some people reject this truth, but nonetheless, it's still a reality. Remember, the soul is eternal, not temporary. Therefore, we do not cease to exist. We are eternal spirit souls. Right now, we're in this particular body. We enter this body at a certain point. We will leave this body at a certain point. And that time between entering the body and leaving the body is known as our life. This is what we call our life, the time in a particular body. But the soul is eternal, so when I leave this body, I have to go into another body if I'm still in the material world. That's why we're known as embodied souls, souls in material bodies. And so this is going on ad infinitum. It's called the wheel of birth and death, or samsara in the terminology of the yoga teaching. So we're on the wheel of birth and death. We've had many, many, many unlimited lifetimes prior to this life. And in the future, well, that will be determined by what we do, how many more times we spin around on the wheel of birth and death. So, again, this is something that is absolutely correct. It's going on. And the more we know about it, then the better it is. So there's so many different types of bodies that the soul can enter into. Some people think the soul only enters into a human body. They don't even think animals have souls. Many people. See, but of course there's no life without the soul. So obviously living animals are an animal body with a living spirit soul inside. And according to our activities and our consciousness and desires and attachments, when we leave this body, we go into another body. Could be a human body, could be an animal body, could be insect, reptile, plant body, aquatic body. So many bodies. That's why the Vedas teach it's very important to know these truths so we can actually have a great, great, great influence on our next life. So there's three basic things that control reincarnation. They are material desires, material attachments, and karma. The nature of the soul is to always have desire. Some people say, oh, you must get rid of all desires. It's impossible. It's part of the soul's eternal nature, see? But what the idea is to get rid of material desires. But that's not easy to do because we're identifying with our material bodies and we're trying to be happy in this world. So we have so many material desires to get this, to get that, and so on. And these desires take us through our life. See, you're watching this presentation now because somehow you had a desire to do so. But there's so many other people who are not watching it because their desires have them doing other things, all kinds of different things. So we follow these desires through life, and then as we follow one desire, other desires appear, and it just goes on ad infinitum. Finally, we come to the end of our life, and we have all these desires, and those desires take us into our next life. See? This is how it works. When we die, quote, die, all we do is leave the body. So what we leave behind is the gross physical body, the one that they bury in the ground or burn, whatever may be done with it. But we're still covered by the subtle mental body. We've talked about this already, the second covering over the soul. So our mental body has a certain shape according to our desires. And the next physical body is designed to fit the shape of the mental body. Just like a hand has a certain shape, and a glove is designed to fit the shape of the hand, you know. So what our desires are when we leave our body determines to a large degree what body we get next time. If I'm attached to the sport of hang gliding and I, love it so much, I'd rather be a bird, no problem. I've got a bird consciousness, I get a bird body, and I'm very well equipped to fly my whole life, you see. So this is how it is, material desires. And this keeps us on the wheel of birth and death. The second factor is attachments. It's the nature of the soul to be attachments. People say, oh, you must give up all attachments. But again, impossible, because it's the nature of the soul to be attached. And some of these people who say, I'm not attached to anything, they're attached to their non-attachment. You see? So these attachments are like anchors that hold us down in the material world. They're like ropes that bind us on the wheel of birth and death, you see. And of course, there's different types of attachments. There's material attachments to things, objects, houses, cars, money, positions, fame, and so on. But of course, the really strong attachments are personal attachments, attachments to other people, you see. But nonetheless, they keep us on the wheel of birth and death. And then finally, the third factor is karma. You see, and I spoke about that at our last meeting. See, all these activities I perform create karma. When I come to the end of my life and go to my next life, my karma goes with me. It means I have to take another material birth to get the results of my karma. Even if it's all good karma, I still got to get my rewards, which keeps us on the wheel of birth and death. So therefore, we've been spending unlimited lifetimes on this wheel, and there's a good possibility, unless we really understand the truth and change things in our life, we'll remain on the wheel for many lifetimes to come. And this is not good, because the material world is not our real home. You see, we, the spirit soul, belong in the spiritual world. See, it even sounds right, spirit soul in the spiritual world. Yeah, it sounds right. Spirit soul in the material world. It doesn't sound right. It's like oil and water. You can put the two together, but they don't mix, see. So, we don't belong in this world, but because of the illusion we're under, I'm the material body, this world's my home. I can be happy here by material endeavors and material acquisition and material pleasures and so on. I have all these desires and attachments and karma, and I stay here. So what we have to do is change our, number one, what we have to do is recognize it as a problem. If I don't see it as a problem, nothing's going to happen. So the awakening is, first, I have to realize this wheel of birth and death is a problem. I need to get off the wheel of birth and death and return to the spiritual world, my natural home, where I can be eternally happy and satisfied, see, in a loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. So I have to receive guidance from the Supreme Lord and his great devotees, the pure representatives of the Supreme Lord, and his words in the scriptures. And these Vedic scriptures, like Bhagavad Gita, is filled with his words, you know. Just like it said, I quoted it earlier in the second chapter, as the soul continually passes in this lifetime, from boyhood to youth to old age, in the same way the soul passes into another body at the time of death. Reincarnation, see. But a self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. He understands this is what's going on. He realizes I'm spirit soul. And so therefore he consciously arranges his life. So gradually he's doing more and more the will of the Supreme Lord and less his own will. Because as long as I act independent of the Lord's will, I'm responsible for my actions. Law of karma, you see. But if I dovetail my will with the Supreme will, whatever I do, I'm doing because it's his desire that I do that, then there's no karma for that activity. And that brings me into a relationship with the Supreme Lord, automatically so. I'm doing the Lord's will, And therefore, that means I'm in harmony with the Lord. I'm in a relationship with the Lord in a favorable way. So this is known as Bhakti Yoga, by the way, devotional service. The whole Bhakti Yoga process is founded on this idea of dovetailing my will with the supreme will. See? And as I do that, I get rid of all my karma. I'm not creating any karma now from the action, but the potency is so great that previous karma is also removed. And if I'm living my life in this way, ultimately I come to the end of my life with no karma. See? So that's 1/3 of the problem solved, no karma. And remember, by all this association with the Lord, doing His will, chanting the mantras, see, this meditation that we have taught you, see, this is in harmony with God's will. It's purifying. He's present in these mantras. And His presence is purifying us completely. I'm in direct contact with the Supreme Lord when I'm chanting His names, these mantras. So gradually, as a result of this, the relationship begins to evolve, and my attachments to the material world, including all my personal relationships, begins to become less and less, weaken, and my relationship with the Lord, see, becomes stronger. Therefore, my attachment is transferred to the material world, to the spiritual world. I'm attached now to the Supreme Lord and His service, doing His will. This is my attachment. And even though I have some small attachment, it's weak. It's like nothing. You know, yeah, there's a little feeling there, but it's nothing. You see, very, very minor part of my life. My strong attachments to the Supreme Lord. And as this continues on, what happens with my desires? They change too. What I'm attached to, what is attracting me, what is giving me happiness and pleasure, is actually going to have a huge influence on what I desire. You see, so my material desires weaken again. I'm not so much desiring this thing and that thing, material this, material that. See, but now I'm desiring more spiritual results, spiritual truth, spiritual pursuits. You see, my material desires have been purified, and now the desire of the soul is manifested in a spiritual way. And out of this relationship and all of this transfer of desire and attachments and the elimination of karma will gradually purify the heart more and more until out of the heart comes the desire to love the Lord. Then not only desire, but the reality of love for the Lord. I'm in connection with the Lord. He's the reservoir of all pure love, spiritual love. It comes into my life, into my heart. My heart becomes filled with love. And therefore, that is the perfection of life. That is the goal of the human form of life. Now I, the spirit soul, have returned to my original loving relationship with the Lord. And when I come to the end of this body, which is inevitable, see, Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, for one who takes birth, death is certain. And for one who dies, birth is certain. See? So it's obvious death is certain. But now there's no anxiety, there's no worry, there's no bewilderment with this death subject. Why? Because now I'm not unaffected by it. I, the spirit soul, have transcended the wheel of birth and death. I leave my body, as always when we leave the body, but now I leave the body with a purified mind, a purified heart, a purified consciousness. I'm leaving behind basically my material mind, my material body, and I am transferred to the spiritual world in a loving relationship with the Supreme Lord on His planet, Krishnaloka, or one of the other Vaikuntha planets, in a personal, loving, eternal relationship with the Lord. This is the perfection of life. I'm off the wheel of birth and death. No more reincarnation. And this is the only solution. See? So reincarnation is not just about knowing who you were in your last life, you see, or proving so many proofs people are looking for now. And there's one group that's been studying proof of reincarnation for the last 60 years. See, it's gone through a few evolutions of people involved because some people, they left. You see, but the point is, they're finding people who remember their last lives. They've documented evidence that they remember, and there's all kinds of, quote, scientific proof, out-of-death experiences and so on like that. You see, I mean, not out of death, out-of-body experiences or clinical death experiences and so on, which, you know, they used to prove is real, but of course it's real. I mean, you know, Bhagavad Gita says it's real. It's the only thing that makes sense, you see. But even though they prove it's true and they accept, yes, it's true, they don't know what to do about it. How are you going to get off the wheel? They don't know this, see. But we are giving you information of how. See, it's coming to us. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells, the spiritual master tells. See, so not only do we see the problem and we accept the reality of the problem, but we know the solution. See, we can apply the teachings of Bhakti Yoga and solve this problem and go to the land of no problems, no anxiety, the Vaikuntha world. So again, whirlwind tour of reincarnation. We thank you so much. And we're going to talk next time about the 4 regulative principles. Some of you might find this quite interesting, so we hope you'll tune in. Namaste, Haribol.